It's that time of the week where the hottest Kenyan millennials jazz up your afternoon with their refreshing live talk show. You are now tuned in to the 254 Millennial Talk.
It's not even my birthday.
It's Namaka guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of the 254 Millennial Talk. Hopefully you've had a lovely week. Now today I'm alone. I'm alone. So maybe someone will join as I continue talking. It's hot, but I took a shower, so I don't feel that hot anyway. But yeah, if you do enjoy the show, consider following us on your listening podcast platform of choice: Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer. These are the platforms where you can listen to the show after we are done being live. And you can also tune in. Sorry, I had to pause because there's noises outside which keep irritating me. I keep telling these people to keep quiet, but anyway, for the people watching or for the people listening, this show goes live every Saturday, 5 to 6 p.m. That is Kenyan time, or GMT +3. You can convert that to your time zone. For the people who are going to watch this video, for the people watching, remember this show is converted to a podcast, so go and follow us on the various podcast platforms of choice. So this is linktree.ee/the 254 Millennial Talk. Be sure to also follow our Instagram. Everything is there. So today we are talking about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. You might be confused and be like, oh, why? Doesn't Microsoft make Windows? Yes, Microsoft does indeed make Windows, but they are also the owners, or they are the people who made the Xbox. The Xbox, again, is a gaming console. So let me pull up my display. The Xbox is, according to Wikipedia, the Xbox is, let me zoom in so that I can be able to read. The Xbox is a video gaming brand created and owned by Microsoft. The brand consists of 5 video game consoles, as well as applications, games, streaming services, and an online service by the name the Xbox Network. Anyway, yes, the brand was first introduced in November 2001 with the launch of the original Xbox console. So Microsoft does dabble in a few things here and there, and they are the makers and the owners of the Xbox. And of course, the money is coming from Microsoft because, Xbox on its own, I don't think has enough money to... I'm not so sure how much money they have, but since the parent company is Microsoft, they obviously have a lot of money, and they bought. So, why is this a big deal? In case you don't play maybe video games, or in case you don't know who Activision is. Activision is a very popular, or has produced one of the most popular FPS franchises to ever be produced, which is Call of Duty. And according to Wikipedia, Activision Publishing, so it's a video game publisher based in Santa Monica, California. It serves as the publishing business for its parent company, Activision Blizzard. And I think it used to be Activision, and then they bought Blizzard. Blizzard Entertainment used to be... Activision Blizzard. I don't know. They bought... I remember Blizzard used to be something different. They must have bought it. But Call of Duty is the most famous franchise, and then World of Warcraft, Overwatch. So basically all of these things have been... Microsoft has acquired this studio. So... And this is not the first studio they've acquired. They've also acquired Bethesda. So Bethesda, if you are familiar with the FPS genre, Bethesda, you probably know of Bethesda Softworks. You probably know of a video game called Doom and the Wolfenstein franchise, which is quite one of those revolutionary FPS genres that really shaked up the gaming industry back in the days. Because I do remember playing Wolfenstein and Doom. It was fun. The older ones. the first ones. But Bethesda Softworks is an American video game publisher based in Rockville, Maryland. The company was founded by Christopher Weaver in 1986 as a division of Media Technology Limited. It became a subsidiary of ZeniMax Media. So ZeniMax is the company that Microsoft bought, and obviously, since Bethesda is under ZeniMax Media, it's obviously now owned. So they owned by Microsoft. They did shell out a lot of money. I think it was 68.7 billion. That's almost 70 billion. So this is what I'm saying. Microsoft do indeed have quite a crap ton of money. And maybe I'll get to why I think, or my general theory is based on watching other YouTubers and my own opinions and what I feel about this acquisition. And it's been, in the recent years, it's been an year of like big acquisitions. I mean, Disney, and I think this is something that Digital Foundry pointed out. Disney did buy Fox. Fox is the famous 20th Century Fox intro usually you've seen in a lot of movies. So that company is now owned by Disney. I mean, the entertainment side of it, so that is movies. But the sports side, of course, they couldn't buy it. The sports and the news coverage, they couldn't buy it because of obviously antitrust and all these things. But Disney was like, I mean, that shook up the entertainment business. And of course, maybe every company is entitled to, make money or make investments where they feel they should make. But again, even watching Digital Foundry and like seeing their opinions on like consolidation of like media entertainment pieces, sometimes it stifles innovation because Activision had a lot of IPs. When I say IPs, I mean intellectual property. Activision has a crap ton of IPs, but they just chose to sit down on it and never, like most of the studios were just forced into working for like on the Call of Duty franchise. From listening to the conversation by the Digital Foundry, apparently that is what used to happen. And over the years, Activision has been getting quite a lot of hate from all the sexual allegations, especially the CEO, who is, former Activision CEO. Activision. Let's look. Let's pull up my desktop view. But he's facing, I think there's a court case even ongoing at the moment. Yeah, this guy, Bobby Kotick. Bobby Kotick has been under fire because there's been a lot of sexual, allegations and harassment and crunch. Basically, there was a lot of shit going on in Activision, and I think the end products used to show themselves in like poorly made games. Warzone was like bugged with hackers and all these things. And I mean, it's not only Activision, it seems to be a running trend in the industry. I think a good YouTuber who talks about like these shenanigans that happen with big game studios is Jimmy. I've forgotten his name. Jimmy. His videos do post, and let me check on the gaming Discord, which is a Discord you should probably join if you're a gamer. I do highly recommend it. But there's a video I'm looking for. Gaming news. I've forgotten his name. Why isn't his name coming up in my brain? But he does criticize. I like the fact that he doesn't really like chill out and be like, oh, these are big developers. This guy that goes in, and when it comes to like calling out developers and all the shitty things that have been happening in the game industry. Basically, there's been a trend of crunch. Like crunch has been something at the forefront of many software companies. It's just, oh my god, dude, there's so much nonsense going on there. And I mean, it's something expected when something is generating so much. Yeah, Jim Sterling, this is the person you should be watching. He does do call outs, or he does make his videos. Most of his videos are about like maybe praising games, and I've learned a lot about controversies in the game studios, especially Rockstar with their sex skulls and their fucking gambling in casinos and all this nonsense. There's so much shit happening out here. You'll be surprised with the amount of nonsense that happens with these big game studios. But yeah, man. So Activision, the CEO has those allegations brought upon him. So apparently, I don't know. People are like, hey, what's up, Slati? Kwanza, where the fuck are you? So people are like, yo, Microsoft is buying. So this guy is like being given an escape. Like this guy is like, yo, like he's being given it's like when Microsoft buys Activision, this guy is going to escape punishment and justice. So that, I think that is what people are worried about. And I don't know what Microsoft might do about this, but I don't think at this time this is their problem, because I think for them it's more about the IP. For them, like what was happening in the company. Of course, maybe if they were to be criticized publicly, I'm pretty sure they'll come out and say, hey, yo, we just bought the property, man. Like what was going on is not us. Like maybe we will come in with new things here and there. And I think that is something that I will talk about later on. But maybe let me talk a bit about like the history of Xbox and what has led to these acquisitions, because this is a very big thing. Like Activision is not really a small studio. It's a very, very, very big game publisher. So I was watching like this is something I think I've also posted under references. I was watching this documentary by let me pull up my screen. Like I'm not even finished because it's so long. It's like 4 hours long. But I was watching like the history of Xbox and how they were revolutionary. Like Xbox used to be the cool brand, right? Like the initial Xbox was like there to challenge what PlayStation couldn't do, right? And I think somewhere along the way something happened and they stopped being. And I think where they fucked up, or where like Xbox lost a lot of people, is when they introduced the Xbox One. Because Xbox were the pioneers of like even online gaming. Of course, they were not the first, but they were like one of the biggest like pioneers of making online gaming possible with their Xbox Live platform. So it's so sad to see that they had devolved so much and they had lost like who they were as a brand. And I still think they're recovering. I don't think like they're fully there, but it's so sad what happens when you bring in foolish CEOs or people who are not even a part. Of course, sometimes maybe like what I think is when there's leadership involved, you have to have like, I would say you have to have like three heads, right? Maybe the marketer, the business side of things, and the person who is passionate about whatever you guys are trying to sell and all these things. And even seeing like the way like the guys had to pitch to Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates, like seeing like how they struggled, like they even had meetings and all these things. They struggled. I mean, Sega almost won the battle to build the Xbox, and probably they wouldn't even have called it Xbox. But seeing like how they had to convince Steve Ballmer, who was like the business aspect side of Microsoft. So I think that's why maybe Microsoft was quite successful, because Bill Gates had Steve Ballmer, who maybe was guiding him. But I mean, you've seen companies like Intel where like the CEOs, the guy doesn't even know anything about processors. The guy is just a business guy, and I'm like, you saw what Intel became. It became like the laughing stock of the industry. It's the expensive nonsense. They were stuck on like 10 nanometer. And you see, AMD caught up to them, and I don't know, maybe they're making a comeback, but these are just examples to illustrate like how sometimes leadership in companies is very important, because I think Xbox also had the same thing. Like when I was even watching that video in some video like discussing like the fall of Xbox, and the guy was like the almost 80% of the presentation he was just talking about TV, music, TV, entertainment. I'm like, Dude, that's not why people bought an Xbox in the first place. Like, Xbox was known for games, revolution, being like the rebels in the industry. So, dude, like, what the fuck, man? Oh, I can see Actor Dana is joined. Sorry, I did not see. So yeah, man, it's absolutely crazy how they lost their identity and lost who they were. So, and even seeing them at you have to always be online. I know it's funny. They were even asked like, what should the people who do not have an internet connection do? And they were out there like calling out people and saying, no, deal with it and all these things. And you see how, and Sony took advantage of this, man. Yeah, I remember the Xbox TV pitch. Yeah, man. And Sony took advantage of this, and they were like, okay, so Microsoft is deciding to backpedal on a lot of the things that made the Xbox very good. You know what? For us, in our PS4, you can do this and this and this and that. You don't have to always be online and all this and this and that is where I would say Xbox lost its edge. And it's sad. Like, I wonder what was that CEO thinking when he came on stage and just said that, we are focusing on the TV and all. I'm like, do these CEOs actually have like a brain? Do they have a semblance of what they are trying to sell? I don't get it. Like, how can you be a video game company and your pitch? It's like being a phone company and then you're pitching something totally different that is not even. Of course, maybe the phone can do it, but that is not why people buy phones in the first place, right? So, yeah, but they Actor Dan, man, welcome to the show.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you for the invite.
Let me.
Yeah, I think just to add something small on what you were talking about, during the when the remember the Xbox One and the PS4. I remember that time I wanted to buy an Xbox One because
Mm-hmm.
initially I owned an Xbox 360
Mm-hmm.
and PS3. But once I saw like they were saying like you need to be online for DRM and all that stuff, I changed my mind and I bought a PS4. You know?
You're like, yeah, that's where they lost you. And you see, but that's the pivotal moment where Xbox fucked up. Like, Microsoft, and this is not like the first questionable thing they've done. I mean, just look at the disastrous launch of Windows 11. People don't even like it. I haven't like installed it because of its stupid TPM requirement. And the problem is they did not even come out and say like why that TPM is quite necessary. Like, is it it's not like a revolutionary thing at where you see like the way Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone. It's not like something revolutionary at you see that one mandated you to like use all the functionality he was talking about required you to use a smartphone, like the touch screen, right? But now this announcement for, I don't know, TPM is a requirement. Like, this is what I'm saying. When these CEOs come out and say stuff, do they really like ask people? Like, do they hold like meetings with like a few test groups of people and like try to see whether what they're talking about makes sense? Because I was even watching the making of God of War, and I remember like they hired like a couple of game testers, and the game testers told them like where you should fix the game, what they need. And you see, like, I wonder, do these people, before they announce these things, do they do this? You were saying, Dr. Dan, you were saying something, Amma?
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
I think okay, okay. Like like a CEO, like anyone else, can suffer from the symptoms of having a personal bias. In that they think like their perspective is the most important perspective. It's like when you have this idea of something and then you haven't yet considered what other people think. You think like this is the golden idea, this is the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
But also sometimes like testing what the market wants is actually the ultimate test once the product is launched to the market. Like that's usually the ultimate test. And also sometimes the decisions that a CEO makes also is affected by their background. Like, if you have like the case of Intel, whereby the previous CEO was not from an engineering background, even Steve
Mm-hmm.
Ballmer also not being from an engineering background. Like, the decisions they might make
Mm-hmm.
uh, might be more inclined to appeal, might be more inclined to appeal to like the
There's the
finance monies and other
stockholders.
stuff.
They're
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, those numbers sound good. Let's
yeah.
fucking f these customers in the ass, and then we'll make more money.
Because I remember like Microsoft initially was not into open source technologies at that time. Like I remember I'm a long time Windows user. I've been using Windows for a very long time. I think
I
I
still.
recently switched to Mac, but I
Mm-hmm.
mainly use Windows. So
Mm-hmm.
like I remember way back in 2013, 2014, 2015. I remember that time like most of the development frameworks that Microsoft had, like the .NET framework could only run on Windows. But then later when Satya Nadella came in, um, he brought in more of the open source, like the new frameworks for development by Microsoft, the .NET Core. Like they run .NET Core and .NET 6. They run both on Linux and Windows and also on Mac. And I think even later they introduced Microsoft Office on Mac, which initially was not there. So I think having that engineering background sometimes helps in the decision making in a tech company.
I mean, no, I'm not. It's like I just think that's a mandatory thing. I just think it has to
Yeah,
be. I think, and that's. I think backtracking on what I said is, I think you need to have two people in charge, not one.
yeah,
One who is passionate about, one who is passionate and understands the product you guys are making, and another on the marketing, like the marketing and the business, so that he can explain to you like why something won't work financially, and you can explain to him like why something technologically doesn't make sense and all.
yeah.
So, and generally companies with such structures of leadership you find are the ones that stay for longer. Slightly saying uh the what deters malicious code. It's hardware software singing. I think that is what the Xbox guy was saying. But I mean, he retired, so. But yeah, it's sad to see the state and the sad state of affairs that Xbox brought themselves into. But and some of these things that are happening even in the industry, it's Xbox who pioneered. In fact, there's a statement I quoted from Jack Triton, who was the CEO of the entertainment in America, the Sony Entertainment thing in America, and he said, with Halo, Microsoft had that platform defining title that you had to go out and buy an Xbox if you wanted to play. So, in a sense, Microsoft invented this. You have to buy this console to play this game. They're the first people who like pioneered it and made it like something that is now like, I mean, it's funny. Sony just stole. It's like Sony went back in time and started stealing ideas from what Xbox was doing and decided to bring it now. So, but the most interesting thing that in fact, the part where you mentioned like Microsoft did not have a habit of sharing, is like these guys who are trying to develop the Xbox, they tried to borrow the initial code for Microsoft because the Xbox apparently runs on a very stripped down version of my Windows, and of course they're the people who developed DirectX. So yeah, I mean that's where the name even Xbox came from. DirectX. It was called DirectX box, but now they dropped the Direct and Xbox. No, it's how DirectX is now on the PC side. But they had to. They are saying they had to steal. They had to like wait on a weekend and go out like in the lab and steal the kernel of Windows, and then modify the code so that it can work, and that's what they like presented. But it was interesting. It's very interesting. It's a very long documentary, though. I'm not even finished watching it. But things like the Xbox Live, like multiplayer, Xbox practically invented achievements and like universal name tags. Like you don't need a different name tag for each game. Like if you just link your game to the Xbox Live, you have the same name everywhere. Like these were the insane things that Xbox were doing. So that's why I was like what happened with such a company, man? Like what?
Because
All this nonsense they were doing. Mm-hmm.
I remember okay, initially I'd owned a PS2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was way back in around 2007, around 2008 Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at that time I think PS2 was the most dominant platform during that generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I later bought an Xbox like the OG Xbox. But the problem I had, I actually bought a second-hand OG Xbox from a guy who owned so unajua these places za kucheza games easy man.
On the gaming
So
arcades or something.
hello?
The gaming arcades or something. The
Yeah.
gaming. It's like a cyber cafe, but for games.
Yeah. And I remember at that time, part of what the cash I had, because he sold it to me at a lower price. It was around 15K at that time, 15, 20K. I can't remember, 15, 20K at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember what really attracted me to the Xbox was, seeing adverts of Halo and, your time ilikuwaga Halo 2.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized after buying the console, it was really hard to access the games in Kenya. But at that time, PS2 had a larger library. And then I think PS2 had actually launched earlier than, if I'm not wrong, PS2 had launched earlier than the Xbox. So I think they had gotten a lead in terms of, yeah.
Plus they had been doing it for a while because it was the second time they were publishing, and this was the first time for
Xbox.
This was the first time for Xbox,
Yeah.
Microsoft diving into the entertainment business. So this was their first venture.
Yeah. And I think at that time PS2, I think PS2, okay, for me the titles that really made me like the PS2 one was God of War. God of War 1, God of War 2, they were really epic. And then I remember Ratchet and Clank was also a really good platformer. And also, what else could I remember? Okay, FIFA was on both platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I remember that time there were these PlayStation 2 Platinum. You could buy the Platinum, the
Mm-hmm.
Platinum hits. Yeah, they really had really good exclusive games on their platform, like Gran Turismo, the racing game, and the God of War hack and slash. And then I remember that time Killzone, they had launched Killzone. I think Killzone 1 at that time. It was really good. I remember playing Killzone, and then what else did I play? I remember the exclusives were really important in terms of selling the console itself. Because I remember that time for Xbox it was only Halo, and I think.
But I mean that's the that's the business model of the consoles.
Yeah.
For them, it's more about selling the software, not the hardware. And they sell the hardware at a loss anyway. So, yeah. Of course, games drive. I think this is why Microsoft is buying. But according to a YouTuber I was watching, the main reason, and this is a valid point, the main reason as to why Microsoft is choosing to buy big game studios is because of Xbox Game Pass. And everyone can't shut up about it because of how it's a good deal. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not a good deal, and it's cheap, $10 and you get access to many games. That eliminates you having to risk buying a full game that turns out to shit. And there was someone, I remember, even those, I think it's Zach. Zach said, like, yo, people are complaining about Battlefield, but for him, because he has EA Play, I mean,
Yeah.
he just tried the game with EA Play and so it was shit, and he was like, Fuchs, I did not spend, $70
yeah.
or $50 on the fucking game. So I think that's why it's appealing. Plus, it's not like you have storage to store all of these games. So, I mean, maybe you just want to play a campaign and it won't take you the whole bloody month. You can just pay for this month and be like, okay, I'm going to play X and X game if I feel like paying again, So yeah, it's a really good deal, and of course they know, and Microsoft, because they are a software company, they are like, I'm sure that's like their strategy here. They're like, we sell software. This is what built Microsoft in the first place. So it will always make sense to, perfect the software side of things. And of course, we are seeing it with the Xbox Game Pass. And of course, Xbox is now maybe trying, and it's they've been on a good trend with Phil Spencer, who again is one of those people who's been a fan of Xbox. Like, he understands what the product is, and all these things. So yeah, I think they're under good leadership, and I hope, and I think it's because of Phil Spencer. That's why they even like bought Activision, because I don't think like the previous CEO would have like had the balls maybe to convince, so like to convince the shareholders, hey, let's shell out almost $70 billion to buy a fucking game studio. So
Yeah.
but I mean, what IP? I think we can maybe talk about what IP now Microsoft owns. They do own quite a lot right now. They own Doom, Call of Duty, Psychonauts, Wolfenstein, Overwatch, Candy Crush, Fallout. Oh my god! Like,
the Bethesda studio.
yeah, man. Yeah, I did mention at the beginning of the show they own ZeniMax, which is the parent company for Bethesda. Halo, like, oh my god, these guys, they have like good stuff, man. And there's other studios, and Activision was a behemoth. Like, these guys were buying studios left and right. The sad thing is that they were not utilizing them. So hopefully this can change under Microsoft's leadership. But damn, what do you think? Whether there's skepticism and fear that the Call of Duty franchise may become a Xbox exclusive. For me, I think I don't think that's, considering most people who buy Call of Duty are from PS4. I don't think it might stay on PlayStation for like 5 years, but I think like maybe later on in the like latter years, because obviously they have to make back their money, I think maybe they might make it, but that is depending on how sellable the Xbox is, because PlayStation is a worldwide brand. Like, PlayStation does well in Japan, which is a field where Microsoft have really struggled to sell their consoles. So I think they'll just sit down. I don't think like they will force, like they will enforce a lot of exclusivity, like, oh, this game won't come. I think maybe what they might do is like they will do like launched exclusives, not like permanent. They will be like Call of Duty is available on PC and Xbox for like the first month, and then the PlayStation guys can get it a month later. But I think the agenda here is to increase the Xbox Game Pass library as much as possible, because they want you to pay, they want you to shell out money, and I think for them it's more like avoiding paying royalties to the studios, like avoiding to pay, like, oh, I have to negotiate with this studio on how much I will license Call of Duty. The same problem that Netflix has. That's why they keep increasing their prices, because they're acquiring more licenses to distribute shows. So these studios want money, and I think, of course, going back on what Digital Foundry said, consolidation is not such a good thing because it stifles innovation. But sometimes these companies have to do what they have to do, and I think like the acquisition for Activision, and I also talked about the controversies they have. It might be a good thing going forward. Uh, yeah. What do you think, Dr. Dan? Do you
Yeah.
think that this
I
exclusive
think
thing will come?
okay, exclusives thing. Um, they might come because they usually say like you embrace and then you extinguish your opponents. So I think exclusive might come in the future, but also it might also be unlikely because also you see PlayStation is also bringing its games onto PC, but also you have to consider that PC has a larger install base as compared to the PlayStation itself. But they might bring exclusives on the platform so they can increase their reach outside America. Because I think Xbox it's big in America, but it's not that big in Europe and Asia and Africa. It's not that big. Okay,
I mean,
Africa is not considered that much, but it's not that big in Europe and Asia.
I think that's what,
It's
and
still
that is
big
what I
in
think I was
America.
saying. Sorry. That is what I think I was saying, like when I said like PlayStation is a global brand. People know
Yeah,
PlayStation. Like at a,
yeah,
if you were to go like on the ghetto Zuko, Sijui wapi and wapi, people will just be like PS, even like
PS.
PS. You see, you'll hear no one say Xbox. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's even this connotation, or not connotation, but there's this like, like a stereotype, like a joking stereotype that Xbox is for chicks, not for guys. So
Oh,
yeah, but sorry for cutting off.
oh yeah. But I think because I think the first step is to increase the install base. Because if they have a larger install base, they'll have more subscribers on the Xbox Game Pass. So part of it is bringing exclusives onto their platform. So I think a future plan might be to bring exclusives onto their platform so that you're forced to have an Xbox for you to access that feature. You know. And then a second thing is like, as you said, it increasing the number of games in the Game Pass library. Because I think, with the offering things, in that you offer, it becomes like gaming as a service. Because I think right now, like the essential infrastructure for doing gaming as a service is there, like internet connectivity is almost everywhere, and it's
And of course,
yeah, 50
Microsoft being
megabytes
like
Mbps.
one of the biggest cloud hosting services,
Yeah.
they have the infrastructure, and this is what I like even backing up this point of you're saying like games as a service. Microsoft have a history of like the software, so I think this is a very smart game by Microsoft here. They really know what they're doing here. Like they know PlayStation, oh, you guys are still stuck on the console, on the thing, we have
Yeah.
to leapfrog, we have to do what we do best. So yeah.
And gaming as a service will now have an access to a wider range of customers because considering like people fail to remember that mobile gaming is the largest platform. So considering that, games as a service will come to mobile gaming, I think that's the eventual plan. Like games as a service coming to mobile gaming because gaming has the biggest audience because mobile phones are cheap and they're quite powerful nowadays. So it's only just 5G, maybe 5G. When 5G becomes more predominant, then gaming as a service on mobile will really succeed. But right now, like gaming as a service might be maybe when you have a strong internet connection, that's when you want to game. But I think once 5G becomes more abundant, I think gaming as a service will really take off, I think. And then also, lastly is uh, you know, if they keep consolidating, if they keep their consolidation strong, then I think uh, you know, they they might not have to because initially Microsoft was trying to create internal studios to build
Yeah,
games,
yeah, I do remember
but
that.
once you acquire a studio that has experience in building games, already has the IP, it already has a game engine, like the various studios are specialists in building RPGs, first person shooters, you know.
Hmm.
So it's like if you acquire Naughty Dog, you already get a company that already knows how to build, adventure games, action adventure games, and story-driven games. So you really don't have to build a team internally, because also building an internal team is very hard. Acquiring the talent and, you know, getting out a new IP is really hard. But if let's say you acquire Sony Santa Monica, they have experience in building hack and slash game like God of War. You really don't have to start from scratch because these guys already know how to build it. If you acquire EA, they know how to build sports games, so you really don't have to start from scratch. I think that will really give them an advantage in terms of bringing new games faster to market, such that they don't have to build up studios from scratch. Yeah.
Kennedy G is saying, I'm just glad Activision is under new management, and I hope they finish making a complete game for once. Slat is saying the sexual harassment. PS is big, but kumbuka when you are on top. Kumbuka when you're on top only, the direction is down. Microsoft can
Yeah.
take the crown.
Yeah.
Yeah, but PlayStation have been on a good track record. I think they understand that the PlayStation is a valuable thing. But then, do you think Microsoft is capable of buying EA? Because this Activision
Yeah,
thing just came out of nowhere.
I
They were
think
like, boom,
I think
we are buying
EA
Activision.
has. I think they are capable of buying EA, because I think EA has not released any blockbuster title, unless, okay, excluding the annual sports games. I think that right now
FIFA.
they're really
In fact,
focusing
on the
more on
FIFA being
their,
the
yeah,
largest money maker.
FIFA, NFL. Like they've really now, because I think the two recent Battlefields have really been a huge disappointment. Like the Battlefield 2042 is a huge disappointment, I think. It's already being discounted, and it's less than 6 months from release. And
The game, the game
the
sucked.
Battlefield, I think it was Battlefield 5. Yeah, it's a huge disappointment. I think they really didn't sell well. I think they haven't released any title that's any triple A title, because all of their efforts, all their endeavors in the past 2-3 years have really been a failure. If you see, the Mass Effect Andromeda was a huge flop. Anthem was also another huge flop, you know. So really, they haven't been doing that well, and I think Microsoft might acquire them in a short while, maybe in a
Maybe,
year
but
or two.
I don't know. Though,
They
though,
might
though
acquire.
that might bring up like antitrust things.
Yeah,
But
that might bring
maybe they might
antitrust.
buy another smaller one like Capcom, or because Capcom and Square Enix, I think they're based in Japan. So
Yeah, but
maybe I don't know,
I
because
really don't
Capcom.
think.
Wait, how many? I don't know. Capcom, the biggest franchise is what? Final Fantasy. Is Final
I
Fantasy
think
Square Enix or Capcom?
I think it's Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yeah. But I
I
mean,
think that.
there's a studio that was under ZeniMax that makes the Evil Within, and I've played the Evil Within, which by there you guys should follow me on Twitch also. I do. I was actually
Mhm.
playing Resident Evil in the morning, but I was playing it, and it was also a good. It was also a good game. I think if like they can poach some developers from the Resident Evil franchise, they can make a good scary game. But I don't know. At this point, maybe Sony might buy, but I don't know. Does Sony have enough money? Microsoft has is sitting on piles of
Yeah, they have a
cash.
ton of cash.
But the
I
cash they
think.
made, Windows 98 was like a frenzy, man. I was watching that documentary. I was like, what
But I
the
think
fuck? Are
in the
these people
recent
buying
years,
Windows? I even thought they are buying something else. Like they are lining up to buy a fucking Windows. Hey,
I
dude.
think Microsoft. I think Sony, there's no need to acquire some of these studios, because they really have a very strong. They really have strong franchises. 'Cause like Last of Us, Uncharted, and
But I mean, they're coming to
God of
PC.
War. They have really strong franchises. As much as they're coming to PC, you find like
Mm-hmm.
most of the people, like, okay, me, I already bought God of War on my PS4.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came out on PC, I had to buy it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't like the experience on the console at that time. Like the frame rate was not that good. Textures were popping in, the graphics weren't that good. But once I played it on PC, I haven't finished it, but I really like it more on PC. And I think, you know, I think more games might come to PC because, uh, you find like coming to PC is just making a port and you're increasing the number of cells you make. Because at the end of the day, the more cells you make, the more money you make. I think that's one thing they've realized. And then right now, there's also another challenge. Like
Mm-hmm.
the PS5 is not, the install base of the PS5 is really low, you know?
Of
So
course,
they really,
right now
so they really can,
there's a
yeah,
shortage of every bloody
yeah, chip
gaming
shortage.
parts.
Yeah.
Silicon has been an issue. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the install base being really low, they really can't play the game of exclusives. Because if they do exclusives and games which are not backwards compatible, because I think all games they've released are backwards compatible with the PS4, because the install base is really low. So if you limit your sales to the PS5, then your sales are going to be really low. So I think part of the strategy will be to release old games on PC, like old exclusives, like 6 months, 1 year down the line, then they come to PC, or 2 years down the line, then they come to PC. You know, because I think even the new God of War is going to come out on PS4 and PS5, if I'm not wrong. Like the God of War Ragnarok is going to come back on PS4 and PS5. I think the main challenge they face is just the low, the small install base of the PS5. But once the install base picks up, then they might stop releasing games on PS4.
All right. But no, it's funny. Maybe history is repeating itself. Yeah. With like the success of Xbox Live, and now the success of Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
It might be deja vu for Microsoft. Yeah, they might be basking in the lost glory. You know what's
Yeah, I think they could be going back to the old Xbox 360 days because I remember
I mean,
I
they
had an
should.
Xbox
They
360.
should. I don't see why they shouldn't. They should go back to those days because, again, the Xbox was the cool. The Xbox was the it, And
Yeah.
Halo did something very monumental, being the first game to prove that games can outsell movies. Halo, when it debuted at 80 million copies.
Mhm.
Like it made eight not 80 million copies, but 80 million like dollars in the first 24 hours, and it sold 2.4 million copies in 24 hours. So this was the first time where like games were like, holy shit, these things are even outselling movies. So
Yeah.
they should go back to those days where they were experimental, and I think they should talk to the older guys who like the people who pioneered the Xbox and ask them like, what are we doing wrong? They should go back to those people, not employ them, of course, because those guys are old and they're retired,
Oh yeah.
but they should just be like, yo, no, like, what should we do? And I'm pretty sure maybe Phil Spencer did that, and maybe he was told, hey man, if you're building games as a service, you need games, so acquire fucking studios.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's yeah.
I think
Mhm.
I think okay, not this generation, probably the next generation. Because okay, the current generation has already started, and I think PlayStation already has a very huge lead, and it will be very hard for Xbox to catch up. And I think considering like the exclusives PlayStation is going
but
to release,
but
it
we have
might
to
maybe the
also
next
remember
generation.
the Xbox Game Pass is not only an Xbox thing.
Yeah,
So hmm
I think maybe right now we might not see. It might take a while before we see the impact of uh of
hmm
the Game Pass of the games as a service,
games
and
as a service.
it might take a while. The way, when Netflix started streaming movies, initially people were very skeptical and they really had these really old movies, you know.
Of
But as
course, I
time
mean
went
those are the
by,
things they had rights to. So you
yeah,
kinda expect.
yeah. But as time went by, they got access to new titles, and as time went on, they were able to finance their own original productions. And I think it might take a while because even if you look at the Game Pass subscription, like right now, every company has its own subscription model. Like EA has its own subscription model. I think Ubisoft has one. I don't know if I'm wrong. Ubisoft has. kind of like a subscription thing you
I would
get.
never, no offense to Ubisoft, but I would never subscribe to anything
Yeah.
Ubisoft. Those
So
guys, fuck them. Hata
I
really,
think also PlayStation has one. Like there's some. I think PlayStation has one. I think
but they,
PlayStation they
if
have one, but it's really not that huge.
wait, if I'm to understand, is the Xbox Game Pass tied to the Xbox Gold service? Like, once you pay for Xbox Game Pass, you don't have to pay for like being online. You know, like the PS Plus, you have to pay PS Plus to play online.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm not sure about that because okay, I haven't tried that subscription, so I'm not sure about it. If it also comes with the with the gold subscription, I'm not sure.
Okay. But
Yeah.
wait, let me ask you. Right? Now that yeah, this thing is scrolling. Kumbe. Now that give me a sec. Let me fix something on the stream. Now that Microsoft owns Activision, do you think like the yearly code thing will stop, or these games that of these publishers that were forced to make yearly releases, do you think that trend will stop now that Microsoft is the new stuff?
I really don't think so because
Mm-hmm.
I think yearly Call of Duty has become, it's kind of like it's kind of becoming a fact, you know, the way
But I
there's a
mean that,
yearly.
that is what like people actually like, that is what is contributing to the like the crunch, the thing you keep hearing, crunch this, crunch that. I
I
don't
think
know.
I think crunch will still be there because it's really hard to go because let's say, even if let me just use this hypothetical example. If you take any Kenyan developer and you
Mm-hmm.
pay them that amount, they'll crunch like crazy. They'll even crunch 10 times crazy.
So you're saying it will be there when there's an
I think
incentive for money.
crunch is still there because yeah, there's an incentive for money, and you find like in countries whereby developers earn less, and if they're able to gain those skills, they
Mm-hmm.
can go there and be paid that and do that crunch. Like, trust me, go anywhere in Nairobi and pick any developer, who works either in Safaricom, any big company in Kenya, any developer, you know, you take them there, they'll take that money because it's really good money, you know. They'll take it.
So
I think
mhm.
sometimes like they might say like those guys are suffering from first world problems.
Not
Because
fast
if
world
you
though.
come,
I mean,
yeah,
it's mhm.
those are kind of like first world problems. I think crunch will be there to stay, and I think as time is going to by, also more and more of these like assets, creation of assets, might be outsourced with time with better tools for creating game assets. As time goes by, they might be outsourced outside America because also the
I mean,
cost of
most they
making
are.
games is really high. The cost is really increasing very fast. So
No,
they
I
might
think they do
outsource.
outsource. No, they do outsource, but that's something that happens actually a lot,
Yeah, but it's
especially
going to increase because the cost is already very high, like 100 million,
probably.
120 million. Like the outsourcing is really going to increase. It's going to go higher and higher.
I don't know. Though these are developed countries, I'm pretty sure they'll come up with a law against outsourcing. So
I
um,
highly doubt because,
no, that might
if
happen because you see, if you're taking jobs away, it's only a matter of time for your citizens before your citizens start screaming and be like, "Hey, man! Like, what the fuck are these studios doing?" I mean, that is what killed Sport Pesa in the first place because I was watching like
eh,
how they went down. I don't know. These are developed countries, so I wouldn't necessarily bet and say that outsourcing will be a big thing, because you also have to remember the countries that they're outsourcing to. They're also developing, and they will be like, "Okay, we also need high pay." So I just think it
not
might.
really.
Hmm?
If
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, if Activision comes to Kenya, like let's say if the average, if Activision comes to Kenya, let's say a game dev company, if you check on Glassdoor, the average salary of of a game dev, like the average salary of a game dev. Yeah, game dev. Let me just check.
It's not high. I mean, a
71
game dev is a bad example. I think
71,000. Yeah.
you should have looked for an IT guy. I get
Oh
what
yeah.
you're saying, like the
Yeah.
salaries and all that, but I'm saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
from what I have seen, there's a trend of governments regulating tech. I mean, it's happening to crypto now. So
Mm-hmm.
you've seen the privacy. So only necessarily bet and say it's only a matter of time, because you see, the work of a government is to serve its citizens, and if Americans are not getting paid to, or if these studios say they're based in America and they're not paying Americans, I mean, that was Trump's pitch in the first place. Like, that is what he was pitching. Like, hey, we need to bring the jobs back. So you never know. Government
I highly
regulation is
doubt it
always a big
because
thing. Mm-hmm.
if they were going to regulate, then I think as manufacture and assembly of iPhones, would
But I
have
mean,
still been
no,
in
look,
America.
okay, look at Intel. Intel had a problem of outsourcing, and that is what even led to their downfall. They cut off a lot of experienced work from like experienced workers from the US, and started like bringing in interns from other countries, and you see what happened. So I don't think outsourcing is such a good thing, and I don't even recommend. Of course, maybe it's cheap in sometimes, but more often or not, that just brings in experience, like to the studios, and
Yeah.
yeah, and from okay, I'm pretty sure if I was to do a survey, I'm pretty sure most employees are still American, because I'm so sure there's a law somewhere stipulating that you need to have a certain percentage of Americans working. You cannot say you're an American company. I think that's the same case here. Like, companies do come under scrutiny when they're like, oh, okay.
Not really. In Kenya, there's no scrutiny, I think. Here, here the
No,
law
I've seen
is
such time. You don't
really.
remember Matiang'i chasing away
Uh,
Indians
I think
and
that was
Nani?
just PR. That was just PR.
Yeah, but the
There's,
law exists. The law does exist. So
yeah, but I think it's not being enforced. I
no,
think it's
listen.
one
That's
thing.
not the point.
Mhm.
Is there is
Yeah,
regulation?
there is a law,
Yes,
but
but now you see that. That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure in the US there is a law stipulating that there should be a certain percentage of locals working. You see?
oh yeah, I think that there are laws, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you know, uh, businesses,
Because from
businesses,
what you're
I think
saying, because I don't agree with that statement, because I've seen the employee database of most of these companies, because I used to like look for opportunities, because I studied this, like I studied 3D animation, and most of the jobs specified Americans. Like, if you're living in the US, all these things, like even when I was looking at the corporate structures, you might think the only thing that I would say was being outsourced is resources, no, not like actual employee work, like buying of assets.
mm,
Because yeah,
I think okay, like like uh okay, but outsourcing will still be there because you really can't take it out. Because if you look at it, like even these companies that design chips, they have
mm-hmm.
headquarters outside America. Like Intel has campuses in India, you know. Qualcomm has campuses in India where the chips are designed, you know.
Also, you're
So I
saying,
think
okay, from what I've got, also, so okay,
outsourcing jobs
you're saying like
is there.
outsourcing in terms of creating studios in countries where the labor is cheap. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think it's always there because if you look at
Yeah.
Rockstar, Ubisoft,
Mm-hmm.
all these countries have they have studios in Eastern Europe, like countries like Poland and most of the countries in Eastern Europe. Most of these companies have
Mm-hmm.
game studios with branches in Eastern Europe because their labor is cheap and the talent is there. So I think what carries the day is the businesses being able to pay taxes because I think with most governments they care more about the businesses being able to pay taxes and also okay creating some employment, but certain jobs are really hard to keep in the developing countries. Like certain jobs they'll have to outsource them so that they can keep the cost down. Because imagine an iPhone that was assembled in China, in America, it would be really expensive. No one would really buy it, you know. And I think initially tech was being assembled in America, even the chip fabrication was being done in America. But as years went by, that has really been outsourced to Taiwan and mainly Taiwan and China, because it's really cheap to do that work. Because if you look at the old days, like in the 80s, 90s, like chip fabrication was done in America, you know,
I think
by Intel and
mhm.
initially by Intel, Motorola. They used to do the chip fabrication in America. But as time went by, as the cost of production went up, and they really, because if you look at it, like most of these businesses, they want to build global products, you know.
Mhm.
So for them to build global products, they really have to standardize the cost, like to make the cost really cheap, so that you know if they sell it to a first world country, they make a lot of profit. If they sell it to a third world country, they still make profit. You know,
Yeah.
I hope you get me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
like
I
most
understand.
of
I
these
understand.
countries, they'll really have to keep most of these businesses will try as much as they can to keep the cost down. Because I think if you look at all the laptops, all the electronics, they're assembled in Asia because it's really cheap
No, no, no.
for
Actually,
them
yeah,
over
yeah,
there.
I understand. I understand. No, I
Yeah.
understand. You don't have to go on.
Mhm.
Uh,
So
Game Pass ultimately is tied to Gold. Oh no, Game Pass Ultimate is tied to Xbox Gold. Okay. Yeah. No, I understand the part of outsourcing and all that, but again, I'll counter you and tell you that there's a reason as to why the US forced gave TSMC money to build fabs.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. When there is a government, when there is
yeah,
public outcry, because of course there is an
yeah,
over reliance on China. I'm still not
yeah,
for. I don't like outsourcing things because that is what happens when a
yeah. True.
pandemic hits. You see what is
I think
happening right
I
now.
think no one likes outsourcing. I think even I'll really be happy being a Kenyan. Like some of these things to be made in Kenya. Like even we have Kenyan games, and the way Netflix is bringing Kenyan movies
Hmm.
onto Netflix. I really like that. But also,
Anyway, hmm
eh? I really like that. And I think, but also you
it's
have
cool.
to look at it like
No, it's cool. We
sometimes.
understand. We understand. You don't have to
Yeah,
repeat. We understand the business side of
yeah,
cheap. Sometimes it's efficient to meet
yeah,
demand. Some countries do it better. Yeah, I think most people understand that aspect of the business. So yeah, um, I don't think I have anything to add on this Microsoft buying Xbox topic.
yeah. I think,
Um,
yeah, I think we'll wait for the next generation, or maybe 2 years from now. I don't know if we'll be having the same conversation if they buy. If they buy EA, they might buy EA because I think EA looks more attractive if they buy it because they'll get access to the annual sports games, and
though I
maybe
think
later they
EA
might
might be
buy.
though
EA
I
might
think
be more
them purchasing
expensive.
EA might bring like antitrust issues. Nini.
Yeah,
That will probably bring antitrust because EA is it's like which are the biggest ones? EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Rockstar. There's a
yeah,
couple, so I just think they might buy a lower one like Capcom or Square Enix. Because if they buy EA, that one is definitely calls for antitrust. You see, Nvidia was blocked from like people are really
buying.
opposing Nvidia buying ARM. So things might be heated up when they try to buy. I don't know. I wouldn't even recommend them buying EA. Maybe buy a couple of their franchises, but don't buy the company as a whole. At buy EA,
Mhm.
like maybe say, you know what, EA sell us the FIFA franchise, sell us the Madden franchise. You see, maybe that's what they will do, but I wouldn't recommend because antitrust. the people with antitrust nowadays it's serious. Like people are really, the governments have really caught up to like technology and these online things, especially like on the privacy side of things. You've seen how websites nowadays like make you choose whether you want cookies or not, and that's because the European Union was very like, hey man, you guys are collecting too much information. You have to you have to specify, like, yo, cookies. Someone has to specify if they want to be tracked or not. So that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't factor in. People usually say technology will go this and this. They don't factor in, like, the governments and how much of an influence the governments do. And most of the stifles in innovation and most of the things like being adopted is generally because the government either approves it or denies it. So
Yeah.
so
I
I think
I
when
think
we
I
look
think
at
also
the
them
future,
buying
Mhm.
okay, because okay, gaming is still okay, it's becoming more mainstream, but I think also gaming it's really not being taken that seriously. Like these are just video games. Like there's no national security at stake. There's nothing at stake.
I
These are
know,
just
but you
video
see
games. I think they
China.
might.
Why do you know in China people are being blocked to hours? Like people are being forced to play a certain hours. Hey, but
Yeah, but
it will get there. I'm saying. I,
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's not. It's been taken serious by other countries. Maybe the US is not taking it seriously, but hata huku Kenya you might hear kwanza huku and the way huku watu like these older people are weird with like rules and all this nonsense. Wow, might hear, hey, this thing is corrupting our youth. Sijui what, hey, these games have to be that's what I'm saying. Like the government is something we always, like when you're trying to predict or when you're trying to see what will happen to an industry, always factor in the government, because they are most of the times the people who either contribute to you growing or they're the people who make you. Because you see how they stopped Sport Pesa and they killed that thing, kabisa.
Yeah. But also, okay, gambling is under more scrutiny as compared to
Now you see,
gaming.
you might hear the government be like, "Oh, these games are gambling and this and that," and then you saw it's always shenanigans. Hey, there's one thing I know never to trust is the government. They always come up with something.
Yeah, true. But I think like I think okay, them buying I think because they already bought like the 343 studios. I think they might acquire EA next. I think maybe the Japanese gaming developers don't really look attractive because like
The
their games are
Xbox is
really
not
big in
popular huko.
Asia. Yeah, but in Western countries like
In fact, there's someone who
okay,
said that in a video.
yeah,
But you never
their
know.
games are not really because I know okay, considering the games which are popular from the Asia, they're popular in America, like Resident Evil, Yeah,
Resident Evil and Final Fantasy, I would say those are the two
yeah,
ones. But
yeah.
I mean,
Even
Resident Evil
Final
is not even
Fantasy,
okay. Would you call Resident Evil like an Asian game? Because Ada is even geared
not
to
really. It has a
Americans.
lot of American
It's even
characters.
American. There's nothing about it that is Asian. It's only the character
Yeah,
designs that I look at them and I'm like, hi,
yeah.
they look Asian. There's a certain way. I don't know. Maybe me, I've noticed it, but there's a certain way. Like I can tell something is Japanese or Chinese inspired. There's a certain way they model their characters.
Yeah,
Especially like the straightness of the hair is usually strange. Like it
yeah.
looks like almost an Asian person. So a good example is like Leon. Leon looks like a white person mixed with an Asian person somewhere.
hmm
Like Leon from Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Most of the characters that you see in Resident Evil either they look somewhat Asian. And I think, I don't know, maybe that's how they just design their things. But their interpretation of Americans, I find it strange. So it's not like the people. I think the people who nail like character representations are Rockstar. Rockstar really know how to nail. Like if someone is Asian, someone will there is no doubt this is an Asian. This is a Black American. This is anyway. Maybe they might buy Rockstar. Maybe But I don't think they can afford them, dude. With the money GTA is making,
I think they can buy
I
Rockstar.
would say let them buy Rockstar because that one won't raise eyebrows. EA has so many, dude. EA has so many IP. Like the amount of IP that EA owns is insane. That's why I was like, I EA. EA must has a lot. I'm saying Madden, FIFA, golf, tennis. You're not even counting Battlefield, Anthem, Respawn, Titanfall, Apex Legends. Can you imagine all of those things? And I'm sure there is more. There is more I've not even mentioned. So you see how that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like if they decided to actually go and buy EA, that one would definitely. You will hear Sony and all other studios and Ubisoft to get like be lobbying like, yo, this is antitrust. How do you see? So you see, like Rockstar only has a few IPs here and there, and I mean Rockstar even bought like the company Take Two. They bought Zenga. Is it Zenga or is Jenga or what the fuck did they buy?
Yeah.
So
The Zynga. No, is it
Zynga.
Zynga or Zenga? They used to make like games for Facebook.
you see.
Was it
So
Calling
maybe if
Mafia
they
or
buy
something?
them, yeah, that one can work. Ubisoft also still
Zynga.
has
It
a
was
lot
Zynga.
of IP. Zynga.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Zynga.
I would say the smart move right now is to buy another studio with fewer IPs because if they buy like something like a behemoth like EA, it's only going to work against them. So I wouldn't recommend it. Like me, when I look at like the regulations from uh external forces, I would say I wouldn't recommend them to even go near EA. Let EA be. Don't even mess with EA. Just leave EA. Let EA deal with their own problems. If they want to sell a franchise, maybe sell a subsidiary, like maybe sell Respawn, maybe sell because the Respawn only has I don't know 3 games: Apex, Titanfall, and the new this Fallen Order. So maybe sell a specific subsidiary, but don't sell the whole company because that will only raise eyebrows. But yeah, man, I don't want to extend this show, and I
Yeah.
started late because my internet was out. I
Oh, okay.
came back.
Which ISP are you using?
No, it's a reseller, but Safaricom at
But
least.
then we need to
It's
talk about
problematic.
Kenyan internet resellers. We need to have a podcast.
So I think we talked about them in the internet. There's a topic we talked about the internet,
Uh-huh.
and we mentioned that.
Okay.
So anyway, I think we chatted about them. Like anyway, I don't know. This week, the whole of the beginning of the year, my internet has been bad. That I can't even stream single player games because it's just lagging.
Uh,
Yani, there's
uh,
something messed up. Safaricom by the though maybe it might be a Safaricom issue because it has been going out. There's a couple of like weekends Safaricom. I heard people who have Safaricom say like, oh, Safaricom has told them that the internet is outage. Yeah, I don't know what cut. Anyway, it's just nonsense. But yeah, I don't. I don't. I think I've exhausted everything I wanted to talk about. Do you have anything to add on?
no, I think it's been a great show, and I hope you can invite me next time.
See the links are why people you should not be like expecting me to invite you. You should come. So you see the links, the topics on the sections.
Yeah.
If you just see the topic, if you just see the topic and you feel like you want to contribute, just come. You don't like need an invite. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, if you see like a
Oh
topic,
yeah.
you just come. If I see you on the listeners, I'll just add you. So yeah, that applies to everyone, even the people watching, even the people listening. It's usually open unless as maybe you come a lot and I have to like regulate who talks and yeah. So in that case, maybe I might have to like see who wants to speak and all that. But in most cases, it's only like 2 of us, 3 of us. So it wouldn't hurt to add like 2 more people, 3 more people. So yeah, man. Remember this show is converted to a podcast. So if you want to listen after the show, I think tomorrow it should be up. There's a bot that posts I split the sections. I split Twitch, YouTube, and the podcast so that at least I cannot mix and match. But on the podcast section of the server, should probably show this on this screen right now. Where is it? Okay, so on the podcast section of the server, you should be able to find a post of the uploaded podcast. So, yeah, for the people listening, if you want to watch us live, remember it's every Saturday 5 to 6, and make sure you subscribe to us, which is youtube.com/namlock NURMLOCK. If you enjoyed this show, you know what to do. Subscribe, share, Kennedy G, I saw you. There's a guy who entered and listened and then went. And Slutty, I don't know what happened to Slutty Leo. Maybe his electricity, because KPLC likes effing him up every weekend.
Oh,
Yeah. Maybe his electricity decided to do a 180 on him today. But yeah, and thank you for coming, Dr. Dan. And I think I don't have anything else to say. Other than peace out.